Hey guys, Jim at Pokemon, and today I'm going to show you my rarest and most expensive purchase I've ever made. And you know what? It's actually not this first edition base set. All thick stamps. It's actually not it. It's something even more rare. Okay, can we just start off by saying how cool this playmat is? You got the Surfing Pika and the Flying Pika. Someone had this at a Collecticon. I think this is just so sick. Just got to throw that out right there. So anyway, let's hop into it. So basically, one of the sets that you may or may not be familiar with is called the VS set. And so this is a Japanese set. You know, these are all PSA 10s. And basically, this is a set that was never printed in English. And so in the year 2001, this was released in Japan. At the time, Japanese sets were trending maybe 1, 2, 3 years behind Pokemon. Well, initially it was 3, but around this time it was only 1 or 2 years. And so if you remember, Wizards of the Coast lost their license around mid-2003. And they had plans to continue to bring in Japanese exclusive artwork, Japanese exclusive sets, things that were not seen in English to America. And so naturally, some sets that got left off were like Vending Series, 1, 2, 3, and this VS set. Now the cool part about this VS set is it's got a lot of really special artists and really special artworks that really were never printed in English. I think there may be a couple that slipped through, but for the most part, it's exclusive. It's very hard to find. I have some booster boxes for sale, so I'm a little biased on price there. But the packs also were sort of first of their kind as well. They came out in 30 card packs versus like a 9 or 10 card pack, or Japanese at the time were 5 card packs. And so with all that being said, this was kind of like a new set. It had a lot of new artwork, new things. It's also the very first set that had first edition for Japan. So that's also very, very significant as well. So VS sets, it's kind of iconic. It kind of has like a lot of history behind it, has a lot of collectability, a lot of desirability. It's something that you cannot find this in English in a booster pack or set form. And so the reason I'm telling you guys all this, if you check on eBay, most of these cards are probably anywhere between $50 and $100 each. You get like a Dragonite or Charizard, they're probably significantly more. These are all Japanese cards that were never printed in English, except Pokemon Worlds, which was held, every year, sort of what we recognize from 04 on, was happening at the time at a smaller scale in Hawaii. It was called the Tropical Mega Battle Tournament. And in that tournament, they brought players from all over the world to compete. And so when they competed, they wanted players to use the decks of their own language. So you had some Japanese players, you had English players in the year 2001, you had a German player, a French player, Italian player, and what they did is they specially made these cards for those players in their own language, even though those cards hadn't been produced in booster boxes or sets or anything yet. And so if you were lucky enough to make it to Tropical Mega Battle Tournament in 2001 in Honolulu, Hawaii, and then they held it again in 2002, so they had 2 different years where they did it, you would get one of these cards in your own language. And so if you think about it, there's only 8 English decks from 2001, and there's 8 English decks from 2002, which resulted in this set being produced in English. Now, only certain cards were made, only the cards for the deck, because everyone had the same decks they were playing with. There's not the whole 130, 40 card set that exists in Japanese and in Japan, but these cards actually do exist in English. And the really cool part about this is these are the only examples of these cards. And so here's the draft rig, and I can just show you side by side, which is, it's just so crazy to see. This is by far the biggest purchase I've ever made. It was all cash, and so to get the deal done, he didn't want trade, he wanted cash. And sometimes when you have something that's so rare, it's not about do you have the money and can you buy it, it's about can you find someone willing to sell it, can you find someone willing to part with something that's this rare. There's certain items that maybe have low pop or low quantity or scarce or whatever, and they're pretty available. They're for sale all the time, once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. There's some things that just never come for sale. And this is one of those items that's, I think, only had 1 public sale in the last, for the full set at least, in the last like maybe 6, 7 years. I know another set was broken up, but it's something that's just incredibly, incredibly rare and hard to find, that when the opportunity came up to purchase this, I really went out of my way to make sure I could secure the deal. And I'll give you a few reasons why. And so one reason is because if you think about all the kind of the weird cards out there that you may have never heard of, you know, like proto-stoys or sample cards, or, you know, Expedition FBO cards, or, you know, misprints or miscuts, or all these sort of random little things that you see and like, oh, that's one other thing I got to collect. That's one more thing I got to collect. Well, the difference with this set is this set was produced by Pokemon. It was produced for an event. It has an official release. You know, it had a purpose. It was for a world, you know, champion event, you know, Tropical Mega Battle. It was, you know, it's authentic. It's validated by them. It is every sort of factor to make this a highly collectible item. You know, I don't want to bash on anything, but like, you know, a lot of those other cards were snuck out of the factory. You know, Proto-Stoys was never supposed to exist. You know, someone took it from the factory, and that's why it exists today. You know, sample cards exist because they weren't officially released. Someone took them and provided them to the market. And it's really cool when that stuff happens and becomes available, and we can use it and play with it and collect it. And, you know, but the thing with that stuff is there's an infinite amount of it. There's never an end to it. You know, what if there's a Proto Charizard? What if there's a sample set for Neo Destiny or Jamboree or Legendary Collection, or, you know, the list goes on and on. And so it's like your goals are just endless. But the difference with this set, it is officially released by Pokemon. It had an event, it had a purpose, you know, there's a history to it. You can see the backs are the, you know, the Japanese backs here, which are crazy. It's been authenticated by CGC. And so it just, there's so much provenance with this. And this deck is from a player. And so there were 8 players in 2001, and there were 8 players in 2002. And there's actually 2 versions of one of the cards. All the cards are identical. So like Cloyster in 2001, 2002 is the exact same. Every card's identical except for this card, which is another really cool sort of feature. Is I'll pause here for a second if you want to pause the screen to see what the error is. Actually, it says it right here, sorry. But this one's from 2001. It's actually an error version. If you look, you know, Mantine is a water Pokemon, and its resistance is psychic. And so its resistance should be fighting. And in 2002 is corrected. So there's actually 2 versions of this. And there's only one collector I know that has both of them. It's David Person. I'm sure he's made that known before, so I'm not spoiling anything here. But it's something that's just incredibly, incredibly rare. And so you have the 2001 version and the 2002 version. And these cards are played with. That's why the grades are mostly 7s and 6s and 5s, and you might see an 8 or a 9 every now and then. But, you know, these are things that people used and consumed, and they, you know, there was a lot of love sort of given to these things. They were fighting to be the best in the world. They were fighting to get that Executor, you know, TMB. They were fighting to get the Tropical Mega Battle sort of card that there's like 500 of. And so I've sort of given you an example of all the Japanese ones I own. I'll give you some more that were part of the deck too. This is the complete deck, and so it has every card from it. I want to just give a huge, huge shout out to my really good friend, Only Collectibles. I actually met him in the UK during Pokemon Worlds this past year, 2022, to do the deal. We'd actually been talking about this for over 2 years. He didn't really want to sell it. He wanted to kind of hold on to it and, you know, keep it close. And then he knew how much I wanted to add it. But, you know, a lot of times with hobbies and collectibles, like, you know, I'm not sitting on it. You know, I don't have like a ton of cash sitting around, you know. So a lot of times it's about timing and stuff, and it's about making the right deal, and it all has to make sense. And, you know, there's a lot of things that we pass on because it just doesn't make sense. It's just not the right time. And it doesn't mean you don't want something, you don't want to collect something, but like you have to limit your scope, and you got to prioritize, and you got to decide what's worth it, what's not. And for me, this was just something that was like, you know, make it happen no matter what, you know. So I did what I had to do. I sold a few things that maybe took a haircut on to kind of make this deal work. And so I kind of went out of my way to secure it. It's something I actually thought I'd never get. I know, I don't know if this offer still exists, so don't quote me on this, but there's a fellow collector that has an offer out on this that's pretty substantial. And so I feel pretty comfortable that the value like would never really go down below a certain point. That collector does have a set, and he said, there's only 16. Like, I'll buy every one that comes up. And so it makes me feel really comfortable and confident that, what I ended up getting this for, at least I don't have too much downside. And this is something like I would never really sell. And so that's another hard part with collecting and being a collector versus a flipper or, a business or a card store is like, a lot of times when I buy something or I put something in the market, like that cash is removed. That's something I'm keeping. That's something I'm not reselling or flipping. So it's like when I purchase this set, it's now something that is a permanent part of my collection, and that cash is no longer being, sent to something else. So it does make it harder to kind of acquire things when your income kind of stays flat over the years, and prices go up. It makes it way harder when prices go up. I definitely feel the pain and struggle from a lot of people. But this is just such a beautiful set. I mean, just to see the English on here, it's crazy. I think one of my buddies is a huge Italian collector, loves it. And he actually picked up the Italian set a few years ago. It's amazing that he found that person and was able to buy it too. I mean, there's so many layers of difficulty just to, find a player, find someone who wants to sell it, authenticate it, find the provenance tied to it. I mean, these are iconic cards, and there's so much history behind them. Just being tied to a Worlds event, being tied to, think about every time you see one of those tropical winds get for sale, it's got the little gold stamp on there. I'm pretty sure they came from the same event, so that PSA 10's like probably 75K, 100K. The 9s are, up there too. It's like, these are the decks, it just blows my mind. So I just feel very lucky and fortunate to, one, have the opportunity to buy it from someone I really truly care about, someone that went out of his way to kind of give me a couple weeks to kind of make it happen. He could have sent it to Heritage, he could have sold it many other ways, but he was flexible enough to kind of work with me to get this deal done. And that's kind of what the hobby's about. It's like, I know a guy collecting Pop Series cards right now, and hollow PSA 10, and it's like every time I see one, it's like, hey, here you go, man. Like, you're just helping people out. I don't need to buy that card for $1,000 and flip it for $2. It's like I'd rather buy it for $1,000 and give it to them or sell it for $1,000, or what I mean. It's like you just want to help people, and to have Only Collect, I don't want to say his first name, but Only Collectibles sort of helped me achieve this, and we've had countless conversations on this. It really means a lot. It's something that like I'll cherish, something I'll always sort of have. And then this is the big kahuna. This is the sort of the big dog, the Tropical Breeze. And so I'm sure a lot of you have seen this in Japanese, but you've probably never seen it in English. Or if you have, there's a couple of photos floating around of them. And so to give you a comp, I'm not going to tell you what the whole set I paid for. I don't plan to sell it. I don't plan to, really just for insurance purposes, it's probably the only time I'd really value it. But, it was over 6 figures. Or not over, but it was a 6-figure amount. And I'll give you a comp on this one card, which this is the most valuable card in the set. A 7 of this, I heard a quote of like 70 to 75K is what someone paid for this. I had someone else tell me 80K, but I honestly can't remember if it was 70 or 80, but it doesn't really matter. That's a ton of money for this card in a lower grade. And so to think about like this right here is like that much, and it's not even a PSA 10 or a 9. It's more about just getting the card. It's like the grade doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters with this case is the fact that they could authenticate it. And I really trust CGC's ability to authenticate. I think grading standards change, and grades go up and down depending on like when or who or whatever. But like the ability to authenticate, I think is always been there. And I trust that their process. I trust my friend. I know it came from a player, and it just means a lot. It just really means a lot to have this. And this is crazy. I mean, this is the big kahuna, and if you think of Worlds, this is what you think of. You think of Tropical Breeze, and it's one of like literally the rarest. It's an official English release, for the Worlds players. Like Pokemon acknowledges it. Like that just means so much. They don't acknowledge. There's so many things they don't acknowledge, and I don't know. I'm not trying to like boast or anything. I'm just so excited. Like I'm literally so excited. This is a goal I never thought was attainable. Like Ampharos Unlimited, I still need that. I'm still looking for it. That's attainable. That'll happen in the next 5, 10, 20 years. This is something that I thought, even if it was in front of me, that I'd never even be able to buy it, because there's a cost factor and there's an availability factor, and both of those are really hard to overcome. So included in the deal are the energies. These are not graded. They're identical to the Japanese, so it's really hard to tell the difference. I'm gonna get them graded anyway, and just I'll put a label, and if they want to tie them to it, I mean, I'd be willing to write a statement or a letter. I could have him write a letter and say that they're part of it and they were played with. I mean, they're similar condition to these. They're from the Tropical Mega Battle, but because there's no discernible difference between them, I don't know if they'll get labeled correctly. But at the same time, like what I would do is I'd get them labeled, and then for a lot of things, I actually put my own little label right here, like a little piece of like a white label or something. I like write on it in pen or something, and then I put a sleeve over it. That way I know, because it's on the case, it's not on the card or anything. So it's kind of cool. And then only collectibles, he actually took it a step further, and he did one more thing that made this even extra special. And I love doing this in these videos. It's kind of like something cool, it's something else. He knew there was something else I really wanted, and I talked to him for a couple years about it, but it was just a case of him not wanting to sell it, and that's these. So can you see why this is really special? If you ever went to the movies in 1999, 2000, and you saw a movie and you got one of 4 random promo cards, you got Dragonite, Electabuzz, Mewtwo, or Pikachu, it had a WB stamp up here, and everyone got them, very common, they're really cool. You know, for years you could buy them for a couple bucks each. I'm not sure how much they go for now. But there was an error version where the stamp was inverted like this, and a lot of people found those. They're super collectible. I remember in 2016, you know, they were going for $2,000-3,000 a piece for like Pikachu. I know some of the others were under 1,000, but for years, like, they've always been super desirable, collectible, just beat up, like in beat up shape. And then there's another version of this where it's called the no stamp. So there's no WB stamp, there's no impression, there's no hint of it, there's no one that picked it off or anything. It's literally like it was never printed with a stamp. And so it's kind of this other version that is even more rare than the inverted, in my opinion. So I've seen very few no stamps. I know some people are collecting them, they don't even have a full set of them. You know, in beat up condition, they're probably $5 to $10K for a set, just played. You know, just it's another one of those things that just to find it is difficult. But again, you know, this isn't an official release. This is an error card. So like English VS, official release, a lot of history, a lot of validity, authenticity, provenance, everything. This is an error. So while this is highly collectible and desired from some collectors, it's just not even in the same realm as VS. And that's what I'm trying to point out here. But anyway, I've been looking at this for a couple of years. I made him an offer as soon as he got him. He said no. And it was one of those things that, like, no amount of money he was gonna sell these for. And so what he did is, when I held the English VS set, we're all talking. We met, like, I don't want to say where we met. We met somewhere pretty public and did the deal. And he handed me these, and he put them in my hands. And I immediately took them. I just put them down. I was like, nope, no, can't do it. Can't do it. Can't even look at it. Because I told him, I was like, I want these so bad. I've been thinking about them for so long that, like, if I see them, I'll have to get them. And I can't buy anything else because this was already too much for me, if you know what I mean. And so I put him down. I was like, you can't do this to me, man. And lo and behold, as kind as he is, he actually ended up making a deal for the whole set. So you got the Electabuzz here too. The whole set's 9.5, you know, gold label, BGS, you know, Gem Mint. Beautiful set. And he ended up making a deal for the whole set for like a sweetheart deal. And so a sweetheart deal is something that you consider to be below market. And it's something that usually has goodwill or good faith, or, you know, it's like a nice gesture. And so because we did this bigger deal, or not even because of it, but, you know, the friendship and the relationship, he basically kind of threw these in, and I still paid him for them, but the deal was below market, in my opinion. And maybe he thought it was fair market. I doubt it. I think he's probably pretty aware it was a good deal. So I just want to say, man, I'm super appreciative of that, and I just I'll take the Pikachu out. I just want to say, I really appreciate it. There's a lot of cards, you know, we've collected over the years that we chase, we have goals for and stuff, and there's a lot of cards that, like, you want to get the highest grade in, or you want to be the best, or this or that. And then there's some cards you can't really get the highest grade, you just got to get a copy. Like, getting a copy is cool. Like, you know, getting a copy of a Ghost Stamp Pikachu is cool. You know, getting a copy of a No Stage Blastoise is cool, because getting, you know, 10 is like impossible. And so this is one of those cards I actually didn't even have a copy of. So not alone did I not have a PSA 10, I didn't have a single copy of like a Pikachu or Electabuzz or Dragonite. And so the crazy part about this story is these are my first copies of these after, 10 plus years of collecting, 10 plus years of chasing errors, 10 plus years of looking for these. It's literally the first copy. And so not only was I able to get sort of the highest grade or the best of the best with these, it was for, a deal that I couldn't believe. And so, he knows that I really went out of my way to make this deal happen. And, I sold a PSA 10 Charizard to put towards the deal, and I sold some boxes and some other things to kind of make it happen. So he's aware of sort of what I went through to kind of make this happen. And it was a fair price. It was a fair deal. It's above what the last one sold for publicly. And so I think we're both happy with it. And he got cash, and, it is what it is. But it's still like, it's just so cool to kind of, one, have this deal done, and then two, have the, sort of the error piece, that deal done as well too. So it just really blows my mind, man. It kind of amazes me how things work out. So I think with that being said, man, I thought there was one more kind of point I wanted to make here with you guys. I guess I just want to say, oh yeah. With that being said, basically, if you want to check out my eBay and if you want to buy anything there, more than willing to give some deals since my liquidity took kind of a hit with this. If you guys have anything you want, just let me know. There's a link down there. If you hit the link, I actually get some money back or something because it's an affiliate link. But at the same time, if you guys want to check it out, if there's anything you want, feel free to ping me on IG or send me an email or ping me on eBay. And I'm more than happy to make some of the prices a little bit better for you guys. Appreciate you guys watching, and you guys coming from YouTube, I think actually makes it kind of cool. And I'm more willing to sell some things. So let's just put it that way. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, see you guys.